this is Michael, and welcome to the Paradigm Shift. And I've entitled this episode, The Feast of Angels. And for many members of our planet, this Feast of Angels is really good news. Once upon a time, King Solomon said, "There is nothing new under the sun. What has been will be again." So, having said that, I want to bring your attention to a very particular event that happened in history that has indescribably precise parallels with what is going on in the paradigm shift. And that event is the exodus that took place out of Egypt under the leadership of Moses. For those of you not too familiar with the story, and even for those of you who are familiar with the story, I'll just reiterate what was going on there. We have three segments in this story. One was Egypt, which was symbolizing the world. One was the wilderness, which is symbolizing the transition. And the other is the promised land, which is what we have on the other side of the transition. Now, for those of you unfamiliar with what took place in Egypt at the time that Moses was chosen to lead the sons of Israel out of what is called hard bondage, out from underneath the thumb of their taskmasters, 10 judgments came down upon Egypt. And at the end of these 10 judgments, they were absolutely annihilated economically and militarily. The buildings, of course, were left intact. Many of the people were left intact, but the military was absolutely destroyed. The economic situation in Egypt was obliterated. And we're talking about their crops, their herds, any way that they could make a buck, so to speak. That was wiped out under these judgments. And from out of these judgments, Moses led the sons of Israel, of course, through the Red Sea and to the other side into what was called the wilderness. And in the wilderness, Israel was put on what you might call a forced fast. It was not altogether unpleasant. They were forced to fast from the diet that they had become addicted to while they were in Egypt. And what was replacing that diet, of course, those of you familiar with the story know that it was manna. And the manna, simply defined, means this: what is it? That's what it means. That's the definition of it. So there were these nice little, like honey flakes that dropped out of the sky every day for 6 days out of the week. And on the sixth day, twice as much dropped out because they weren't supposed to go out and collect it on the seventh day. All right. So the sons of Israel, even though this stuff tasted like whatever you wanted it to taste like, it was remarkable. It was the food of angels, and it was said to be likened under coriander seed, which those of you who have gone on fasting or done some cleanses, when you eat seeds, they tend to clean you out pretty good. So anyway, Israel was to be on this diet of manna. And what was going on there is they were being cleansed of their Egyptian appetites. But after a little while passed, they had what was called a longing, a lusting, a craving for the flesh pots of Egypt. And the flesh pots of Egypt could really be defined as, say, the Outback Steakhouse or Kentucky Fried Chicken, you name it. It was the flesh pots of Egypt. That's where they went and they ate the flesh of animals. So as I was saying, they began to have these indescribable cravings for meat. And so God sent them millions and millions of quail. And as they captured these quail and as they ate them, a plague broke out amongst the people, and thousands upon thousands died. So really what happened was they rejected the food of angels, the manna, in order that they might satisfy the cravings of their bellies for the flesh of animals. And to put it in everyday language, they really, let's put it gently, they really angered Yahweh. Because you see, in the beginning, he never ordained, shall we say, that man should eat the flesh of animals. He ordained that man should eat what he provided for him. Veggies, fruits, nuts, grains, the good produce of the earth. But along the way, they developed the habit. They got addicted to the eating of the flesh of animals. And how this happened is that if you go back and you study, say, the ancient writings of Enoch, what took place during the days of Enoch that's when we had in the Bible, what was called, it's pretty much phrased like this, where the sons of God looked upon the daughters of Adam and saw that they were fair, which means that these chicks were absolutely gorgeous. And anyway, so these angels saw these women and they went, whoa. And so they took them for wives. Now, what happened is they were creating hybrids, okay? And these hybrids were called Nephilim. And the Nephilim were what was described in those ancient times as the giants, okay? So they had these big, and I'll tell you what, there's a really good website out there. It's called, and I don't read a lot of his news articles or anything like that because it's full of a lot of bad news and whatnot. However, he's got kind of a dual website. The guy's name is Steve Quayle. And Steve Quayle has done a remarkable study on the Nephilim and on giants. And on his website, he's got a lot of old photographs and whatnot of skeletons that were found. And some of these guys, my friends, were 40 feet tall. Now, these were the Nephilim of the ancient days. These were the giants. And no, they were just a bit taller than 10 feet, as most people want to say. Well, they weren't much bigger than 11, 12 feet. No, they were about 40 feet tall. And these Nephilim were going around, and they didn't have, let's say, their parents, what we would call the Titans. And in your ancient history, this is ancient Greek history and whatnot. This is where you get characters like, Zeus, Apollo, Diana, and anyway, a lot of these, Hermes, a lot of these guys. This is where they came from. They were the Titans. They were the fathers of the Nephilim. So what these guys taught their sons to do is to eat the flesh of animals. Okay. And they taught them to eat them with the blood with the blood still in them, so that they could strengthen themselves, so to speak, with the soul of the animal that they ate. And there were some incredible animals on the earth at that time. So what happened was, and what happens to all of us even today, is that when you eat meat, and it's dang near impossible to really cleanse the blood out of the meat. And it is said, and it is written, and it is true, that the soul is in the blood. So whenever men eat the flesh of animals, they are actually partaking of the soul of that animal. And you got to understand what's going on here, especially today in the slaughterhouses. And folks have to be absolutely insane if they think that animals like cows, sheep, pigs, chickens, whatever it is you're gonna shove into your mouth, that these animals, when they're in the slaughterhouse, they know exactly what is about to happen to them. We've been taught for many years, or thousands of years, decades, millennium, that these are just dumb, stupid animals, and they haven't got a clue as to what's going on. Oh, yes, they do. They most certainly do have a clue as to what's going on. And these animals are filled with absolute terror. Even though they're not stampeding in the slaughter yards, sometimes they do. But anyway, they're filled with terror when they're slaughtered. And that terror is in their blood, and that terror is going through the meat, okay? Also, what happens when a person partakes of the soul of an animal is they begin to take on the nature of the animal. For example, people who have a particular penchant for say, chicken, or for, say, lamb or beef. These are prey animals, okay? These are herd animals. And when men take on the nature of a herd animal, of a prey animal, they become just that in their nature. They become easily herded. You lead sheep, you drive cattle. All right, and if you just kind of scan society today, it's not hard to see that so many of us are driven, or we are herded by those that call themselves our leaders. So anyway, this knowledge was given by what we call the fallen angels to their sons, the Nephilim, and that's why they ate what they ate. Well, it was the Nephilim that taught men to eat certain animals, and men got addicted to it too. And it's also said that in those days that the heart of God was so grieved, okay, that what men were doing on the planet before the flood of Noah literally broke his heart, okay. And you see this. The word fountain in Hebrew is actually the word for eye, E-Y-E-I, like your eyeball. So when it says that the fountains of the great deep broke forth, okay, what you can actually literally picture there is these were the eyes of the earth. These were the eyes of the Creator that were gushing forth tears, and those tears flooded the earth. That might sound a bit fairy tale-ish to some of you. However, it is literally true. That's what happened. And it is also said that the hearts and the imaginations of men were filled with violence continually. Well, I'll tell you something. What was true then is true now. And these things were facilitated by the diet that men were partaking of. Because when you have to use violence to kill your food, violence will be imparted to your nature. So again, what was true then is true now. Is something for all of us to seriously consider, because as we go through the paradigm shift, okay, and the shifting itself is bringing us to what you can easily liken to the promised land. And this is something I think many of us for, heaven knows how long, have longed for and even wept over when we see the absolute horror, the wholesale rape that is going on our planet. And I'll tell you something, folks, that we're not going to have any animals left if things don't change rapidly. But what's going to take place during this shift? And I'm just giving you a forewarning of it. I'm just giving you a foreword of it. Is that every man, woman, and child upon this planet is going to become absolutely sickened at what we have done to the rest of the creation, so to speak. Because there's coming an interconnectedness. We're going to begin to understand that all of us that have life, okay, are interconnected, and that's not just two-legged individuals. That also applies to the four-legged individuals too. It is said and I'm quite biblically oriented, as most of you are probably already aware, but in the book of Isaiah, it talks about this time that is coming, okay, and it does refer to it as the second great Exodus. And you can go to those of you who actually happen to have this book, you can go to Isaiah 11 and read through it a little bit. And as you get towards about midway through, it talks about the holy mountain of God. All right, and what mountains are, what mountains symbolize in the Bible are kingdoms. And so it is said that on the holy mountain that they shall neither harm nor destroy in all my holy mountain. And there's a whole array there of the animals and also people too, of course. But the people are not going to destroy the animals, and the animals are not going to destroy each other, and the animals are not going to fight with men, and men are not going to fight with animals, because the fear that has come upon the animals of this planet, the fear of man, is going to be eradicated as we stop eating them, as we stop hunting them. And all of a sudden, you're going to find that, by golly, you got this big old Bengal tiger that is your pal. He's your friend, and he's not there trying to eat you. Okay, he's your bud. Or lions. It's any kind of animal you can think of, they're going to be your pal. Okay? So this is something that is on the other side of the transition, because the transition is in and of itself, like I was saying earlier, it is the wilderness, and we are going to go through a wilderness time through this transition. You just have to. It takes time to shed old habits and to gain new ones. And what happened to Israel is that, and I explained this earlier, is that most of that adult generation that came out of Egypt perished in the wilderness because they were simply unwilling to not endure the transition, but to do the new things that were required of them so that their lives would be full of joy, full of happiness, full of peace, full of love. They didn't understand that that this is what they were being formed into. And it took a period of time, and it does. Time is not a bad thing. Time is a good thing. But if you want to hear an interesting little definition of time, it's actually this. Time is the gap that takes place between an action initiated and an action completed. And that gap in between the initiation and the completion is what we call time. So Israel's time in the wilderness was 40 years. It didn't have to be 40 years. There were only 11 days. There was an 11-day journey between Egypt and Canaan, which was called the Promised Land. But because they, and you got to understand that these people were pretty freaked. It'd be kind of like this I had used the illustration of the quail because it is very apropos. When people are addicted to something, and I've been an addict myself, in my earlier years, but you take a look at folks today that are addicted to meth, addicted to coke, addicted to heroin, addicted to alcohol, addicted to whatever, prescription drugs. And when they are without those drugs, okay, when they're not getting their fix, some of them can become indescribably violent. And so it doesn't matter what someone is addicted to. If they are not feeding the beast within, that beast rears its ugly head and becomes very predatory. All right, because that's what happens within the nature of an addict. He's feeding the beast. Okay, and that is something that all of us are required to slay. And there's more than one way to slay this particular beast. And you can starve him to death, in which case he'll just get tired and he will leave your house, so to speak, or you can kill him. But one way or another, the beast within has got to be conquered. And that's what takes place in the transition. That's what takes place in the wilderness. That is what that is what we are all shifting out of. We're shifting out of the nature of the beast into the nature of the exalted man, so to speak. We will be shifting out of what we have become, which has been predatory. We will be shifting away from being a predator and becoming. The only other really good description I have for it would be as the shepherd. And I have a herd of horses, and I've learned a lot from my horses. And I've found that there are basically two distinct animal natures. One is, of course, the prey animal, and the other is the predator. And this carries over into human nature also. And upon this planet, we have two basic types of individuals, and they are the predators and the prey, the victims and the victimizers, the persecuted and the persecuted, the oppressor and the oppressed. Okay? But there is one that stands betwixt and between the predator and the prey, and that is the shepherd. He's neither a predator and he's not a prey animal. Okay? He stands betwixt and between because he's the defender of the weak against the mighty. And that's what man is shifting into. He's going to lose his predatory ways. He's going to lose his prey ways, so to speak. He's going to be neither victim nor victimizer, but he will be that individual that stands between. And these things, the predator and the prey, is going to diminish and diminish and diminish and diminish. I was going to end this a few minutes ago, but I just wanted to say this one last note here. In the Bible, in the book of Genesis, where Adam was given his commission, the description of that commission is probably one of the most indescribably horrible translations in the entire book. It says that God told him to take dominion and subdue the earth. That is not what was originally written. He was given the commission to be the shepherd of the creation. Okay, not to conquer it, not to subdue it, not to put it under his thumb, nor put it under his heel, but to care for it and nurture it as a shepherd does his flock. And that was a way we were to be treating the animals, is to simply shepherd them, and not so that we could eat them. And I am Michael. This has been the Paradigm Shift, and I'll be talking to y'all again in a few more days. Bye-bye, and have a very good New Year's.
Thank you.